big one, and we might even have an extra.
Welcome you to the August 3rd, 5:30 regular meeting for the Council of Governments. If you would please stand so we can have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first item this evening is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial and will be acted upon by the council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or interested party may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda for further discussion. Are there any agenda items the council would like to pull? Are there any items the public would like to see pulled? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Munity, seconded by Councilmember Cantillano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. 1, 2, 3, 6-0. Councilmember abstains. The regular agenda is now starting. Public comment. We have 5 minutes per person. Is there anyone interested in making public comment this evening? It's either hot or everybody's just happy to see this move along.
Do you have one there?
Okay. County report. County report is a verbal report. There is a item 6.1 on the Wagon Trail quarterly report included in the agenda. Do we have our county member resident to present?
Jeff Krovitz, Public Works. A Wagon Trail, as you know, is very near the end of the project approval process, which is comprised of an environmental document that's approved, both NEPA and CEQA, because of the funding sources, as well as a project report. There was a snag that was run into on the project with interpretation of habitat for endangered species, specifically red-legged frog potential habitat. The Federal Fish and Wildlife Service wanted the project to mitigate on a 1 acre of disturbed area for 1 acre of mitigation banking elsewhere in the county or somewhere where a red-legged frog habitat mitigation bank has been identified. Mitigation banking on that item is about $95,000 per acre, so it adds a significant amount of funding to that entire project. That is not the only project for which U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has run into that issue with Caltrans. Caltrans has taken the lead position in negotiating with the federal agency to try to come up with a reasonable accommodation where you don't double the price of construction projects for environmental mitigation banking for potential habitat as opposed to proven habitat. So we will see how that plays out, but the idea is that once some resolution is reached among the federal agencies as well as our state agency helping us with this project, we will then be able to conclude the project report environmental document, which will conclude the PA and ED phase, which means that we are ready to move ahead to the next phase, which is acquisition of right-of-way, final design, and construction. In terms of moving ahead, we have funding to be able to get us to construction, and the project did get some commitment of funding from Caltrans to pay for a large portion of the western segment. And we were seeking additional grant funds to be able to pay the balance of the construction portion of the western segment. So COG led the charge for a FLAP grant, FLAP standing for Federal Land Something Program, you know?
Federal Lands Access.
Federal Lands Access Program. And while the project was the highest rated project in the application process, there was a fatal flaw in terms of the local match applied that didn't quite fit the program requirements, therefore it was not funded. So we will go back to that grant we will clean up the grant. We have identified some match funding that will make the local match fit within the program, and we'll go back on the next round to try to get the balance of the Western segment funding for construction on that process. Executive Director Eads and I will be attending an event from the California Counties Agency Policy Conference this month, week after next, and we will be meeting with some of the representatives on the FLAP grant evaluation committee to make sure that when we go this time, we are successful. Any questions on the Wagon Trail project?
Seeing none?
Thank you.
Gary Caldwell, Valley Springs. Mr. Chairman, I apologize. When I came in and was sitting down, I didn't hear you call for the consent agenda. I'm sorry. Of course, I'm getting hard of hearing, so I may have missed it for that reason. But I was wondering if I could talk about an agenda, with your permission, agenda item that's on the consent agenda.
We've already passed it.
All right.
I'm sorry, Gary. Caltrans report. Mr. Baker.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I usually have more time to rummage through my papers. Just a couple of things to report. The California Transportation Plan 2040 has been released. It is available on the website, and we will be getting some hard copies at the district, and I'll do my best to make sure the COG gets at least one copy. We have a new memo from the director, Malcolm Dougherty, about drought efforts 2016. Essentially, some of the things have been rolled back somewhat, but it's all based on maintaining long-term efforts to meet the water conservation mandates. They're going to use more potable water, non-potable water, drought-tolerant plants. So slightly better situation than we were in the past, where we weren't able to install any landscaping whatsoever. The other thing that I had to report on was the flashing beacons in Burson. The project has been, when it was originally posted for bids on the state website, they didn't receive any bids. It's been reposted, and it closes, I believe it was the 11th, which is next Thursday. I just looked at it before coming here, and it said 0 bids. So we're hoping that if we're not getting them statewide, maybe we can get someone local to bid and get that moving.
When was that posted?
It was posted the 27th, so it's up available now. And as far as when people prefer to bid, if they are, I don't know, if you go on eBay, everybody waits till the last minute to bid. I don't know how it works, and I don't follow those things, but hopefully they do get some bids, and hopefully we get some interest to get that project done. I think that's it, unless there were questions or things from the board.
Questions from the council? Gary, I do have one question. Noticed a lot of good work being done on 12 and 26 and 49.
There's a lot of work being done.
But I noticed that from the Stanislaus County border to Coppolapolis on 4, it's still a natural rumble strip in many spots.
Yeah, the dig outs haven't even been started yet. I think that's going to be starting, but I can do a follow-up.
Is that
on
a summer 2016?
I believe it is, yeah.
Okay.
I'll look into that and see if we can get you an answer on that. But that was my my understanding was that was supposed to be going. It's remarkable driving around how much new asphalt there is in Calaveras County right now. So, anything else?
Does Caltrans have any plans of doing anything through San Andreas now that the gas lines have all been?
Well, so there was an overlay previous to the gas lines going in, but the center of town was omitted from it because of the crown in the road, and we understand we're going to have to grind down the pavement essentially to do an overlay through the middle of town. That we are hoping, as a longer term goal through the corridor plan, if the county comes up with a plan for what's going to happen with the edges of the road, Caltrans can coordinate that so that we don't do a rehab of the highway and not have the county ready to address the sidewalks and the curb and gutter, and vice versa. The county doesn't have a plan to do pedestrian improvements and not have Caltrans. It would be ultimately the best deal to coordinate that so we can do it as one big project.
So you're saying that the planning, the Gateway Corridor plan that we're doing right now will determine when that happens?
Not entirely, but I guess my hope is that that's a way of communicating with the district.
Local priorities,
between
absolutely.
what the local priorities for the edge of the roads, the pedestrian portion, which typically is the county's responsibility, and why should one of us do one and the other not be ready for the other? The county is aware that Caltrans is going to have to deal with the road, and we hope to be able to coordinate that and not throw good money after bad, trying to make things fit after the fact.
So the goal is to coordinate the community's vision with the future project that Caltrans has. Caltrans does have a future project. We just want to make sure that we're implementing the bike and ped and the mobility improvements that the San Andreas communities identified when they come through, versus so that we can do it in coordination with that effort. And hopefully leverage state and local and federal funding to complete it.
So to be clear, Caltrans doesn't have a project on the books to do a rehab on that section of the highway, but we are aware that needs to happen.
Yeah.
So typically we have the 10-year shop plan, having the county come to us saying, we prepared this plan with our vision for what we want to do. Can you work with us to make this work, as a partnership, and get that into the 10-year shop plan, get it developed into a project?
So, and I think too, in the plan, it should be referenced. We're talking with Omni Means and we're talking with the community. We're identifying safety and operational improvements throughout the corridor. And I think we will make sure that it's identified as an operational and safety improvement needed throughout the corridor.
There's a lot of pieces to tie together, and I think the main thing is that we're working together to address it comprehensively and not piecemeal, because that generally it makes for a big project, but it also makes for a solution. And when you go for funding for these things, being able to show that you're leveraging your partners working together, that's always a plus. So that's my hope, and I think I have the support of the district on that. They don't know the depth of it all because they don't have the report to review at this point. But I think when we bring it to them, that will be well received. That's the kind of thinking that we're trying to encourage these days.
Okay, well, I'm just experiencing the road, how beat up it is,
Yes.
and the damage that causes.
Yeah.
That's
Mountain Ranch
difficult.
took a
If it's
beating.
a 10-year thing, it's gonna look pretty ratty around
So,
in 10 years.
I don't know what the status of the permit and if there's further work under the permit where they're supposed to do some more. I can also look into that. That's probably a worthwhile thing.
Well, I'd like to follow up on Cliff's comment. He's right, the quality of the patchwork that was done once the lines were redone is pretty poor. I mean,
Okay.
You drive through San Andreas and they're bouncing around quite a bit. Is there a quality standard that the ultimate patching results should have resulted in?
Jeff could speak to it if you'd like.
You guys are welcome to tag team on this one.
I noticed coming in Mountain Ranch Road, it didn't get any better when I was on Mountain Ranch either. So.
No, actually, it's worse.
With the gas line undergrounding project that's being performed currently in San Andreas by PG&E, the initial work and the initial patchwork was done with cold patch asphalt. And that was just to, A, do the potholing, B, then do the installation, and then C, they will come back and do what's called a T-patch. They go outside the disturbed area with a saw cut, they remove, and then they pave with permanent hot mix. So I noticed that the overlay, or not the overlay, but the patchwork has been marked on SR 49, so I'm expecting that very soon. I do believe it will be a much better surface than what you're experiencing today. And yes, the contractor is babysitting because there was a pothole developed in one of their trench cuts by the hospital here on Mountain Ranch Road, and they came back and fixed that pothole, and it was all temporary. Questions?
Yeah, so are they gonna replace the hot mix or the cold patch that that took out the sidewalk? And now there's cold patch in there instead of cement?
Yes.
I don't have details, but I can follow up with the project manager. Typically, when we work with a permit that's going to be addressing one of our facilities, we need to make sure that it's put back in the state of good repair that it was in when they started. So I would, what Jeff is saying sounds like probably what's going to happen. Clearly, we're not going to get something that was never cut in the first place, but we will get something that was cut appropriately to make a patch that's appropriate. But thank you. I'll let them know that there's concerns.
I just am concerned about, like the last time we community put together a mobility plan, which never got enacted. And that was 8 years ago, maybe, somewhere around there, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And now we have this gateway plan that's supposed to also plan. In the meantime, we have a lot of cars and motorhomes that get high-centered on in the middle of town. A lot of vehicles bottom out because they're trying to get into a driveway because of the crown in the road. The crown in the road's been there a long time. And so, done a lot of planning.
Yeah. I don't.
And we have a lot of folks, our town basically is getting worse.
So I don't believe the crown was addressed in the previous study, and that would be a shortcoming of it, and we're listening and trying to make sure that we don't pigeonhole that we're looking at this as a pedestrian plan. Like I said, we're trying in all of our planning to make sure that we look at all the modes together and
I can agree with that. I just don't think that 10 years from now it's going to work.
The other point to make was that the biggest issue with the last plan was that for various reasons it wasn't adopted by the county, and it's kind of hard to get anything implemented from it when it wasn't. This time we've got the county on board as a partner, as they signed on to the grant. So our hope is that everybody's happy and everybody's able to adopt this plan and we can move forward with it.
I'd like to thank you, though, for, and I don't know if Jeff brought this up yet or not, for the 1226 intersection.
You're welcome. I had very little to do with delivering it, but
You know, most of us,
I'll
most
pass
of
it
us had
along.
very little to do with it, but it was still a partnership,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and COG as well. It was a partnership with COG and many agencies.
And
So, you know, we had the ribbon cutting ceremony. That was down last Wednesday. And then on Friday, we received an award from the APWA for the project, which I thought was really great. Is this appropriate time to do this, Jeff? Or? So, I mean, I think it's important that was a successful partnership. There was a lot of issues.
Oh, community concerns, and
Yeah.
that project changed a lot from when it started to what was actually constructed.
You know, right-of-way purchase, businesses had to accommodate and move buildings and pull out tanks. You know, there was 4 tanks originally, or 3 tanks originally, and we found a couple more. One, I was standing there when they pulled it out, it was still half full. That was fun. I never seen them pull out a tank before like that. It looked like, you know, Swiss cheese. That was pretty interesting. And but it's done a very good purpose for the area. Works well. You know, it saved a lot of people a lot of time. They used to get up 45 minutes earlier to take their kids to school. Now they don't have to do that, so that was a good thing. And I certainly appreciate your director coming down and having a part in that. So it's the first time we got to meet, and I appreciate that. But to receive an award is kind of a pat on the back, I think, for not only Caltrans, but the county and COG, because I know they had part in it too. And so, you know, we all appreciate that very much.
I'm not aware that the district knows that it has an award at this
Really?
point, but I will check with them. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about it, but, okay. So did that happen at the,
APWA came and noticed everybody at the ribbon cutting had the award.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I was up in, is that Sacramento somewhere? I
Yeah,
don't know.
we're in Sacramento.
When I get when I get out of the county, everything's Sacramento, so. But, yeah, I was up in Sacramento's Red Line on Friday. It was well attended. I mean, it was big, and it had to do with a lot of projects.
Awesome.
But it was pretty neat that our county got to be in that process, and and our Public Works Department got to be recognized for that project. So I'd be happy to forward that information to you so you can.
I will pass your thanks along, and I appreciate the positive feedback, and it's good to hear about what we do right and not just about what we do wrong.
Yeah, I can relate to that very well.
Thank you. Oh, I also dropped off a pile of mile markers. Carly has them, and I'm sure we'll pass them out at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Staff reports.
I'm not through yet. Sorry, John. I'm not through yet. So I actually have a copy of the award that we received, and I'd actually like to give it to COG, because I think that it's important that COG get recognized for it, because they were, part of the funding source, and I know that they worked hard to make sure that this project come through too, because it started in 2004, the project. And Lucy Thine actually is the the supervisor that was able to get into the hopper to get her rolling. And so we got to publicly thank Lucy Thine for that. And then it's worked its way, through the years. Some of us, were young people then. I had like darker hair then, but we made it. But this is the copy of the award, and I think it's appropriate that Melissa receive that.
Thank you.
I'll get it.
That's very nice.
Are you good, or?
Yeah, I just want to give every board member a piece of this.
Mr. Kola, have you approached the podium about Caltrans?
I beg your pardon?
Have you approached the podium about Caltrans?
Caltrans.
Yes.
I too, I wanted to express my appreciation too for the recent overlays on the state highways here in Calaveras County. It's a nice job they did. I also wanted to join in commenting about the crown on Highway 49. My wife and I own property that fronts on Highway 49 here in town. And I can tell you that if you park along the curb, I have to get out of the car and hold the door open for my wife. Otherwise, it'll slam. It's so steep.
Right.
It'll slam on her leg, and I'm concerned about that. So I'd love to see them take that crown out of there. If they ever get a project to do that, I certainly would be one of those that appreciate seeing that done. And I was, Mr. Chairman, can I ask Caltrans a question?
Sure.
Okay. Given that the county has been delinquent on a number of reports and has been non-compliant on some others, and particularly if you look at tonight's agenda, you'll see 4 years in a row where they failed to file the reports on time. My concern is whether or not Caltrans, and that's my question, whether or not Caltrans is considering taking sanctions against the Council of Governments because of these delinquencies and the non-compliance reports that come from the county, if they're going to penalize the county financially. It was already commented by Council Member Edson that COG gets a lot of the funding for these projects and expends a lot of effort, and I hate to see that jeopardized. And I'm just wondering if the fact that these reports are either non-compliant or late or both, if that's going to affect the council receiving funds from Caltrans or the federal government, because the federal funds come through Caltrans. I was hoping the Caltrans rep would be able to answer that. If they're considering some sort of sanctions, I think the council should know about it.
I can go ahead and address that. It's not my understanding that the Council of Governments is facing any sanctions at this time. Our relationship with the county, specifically the Public Works Department, or the city, specifically their Planning and Public Works Department, is to monitor and oversee the timely use of the funds that we do receive as a Council of Governments. As part of that relationship, we're continuously reminding of critical deadlines, we're continuously reminding of critical report timelines, and when those deadlines and timelines or project delivery suffers, we all collectively suffer. We do have concerns that we will be facing audits on some of the projects. We're not sure how we will fare in some of those audits in terms of compliance. We do believe that our lack of timely reporting may trigger some of those audits or possibly site visits, putting us on sort of a list that we would rather not be on. But that being said, we work every day. That can happen. That can really happen on a good day or a bad day with a project, to be totally honest. That being said, we're working closely with the county. We're working closely with the city to prepare should those audits come, should those site visits come, so that there are no sanctions to the Council of Governments or to the county, and that it remain at a level of sort of administrative oversight. But we are concerned, and we do try to keep you in the loop as the Council of Governments, because that is our role, is to monitor the timely use of those funds. But at this point, I'm not aware that sanctions will be coming from FHWA, FTA. I believe that we will hopefully satisfactorily comply with our TDA audit this year. We did have some shortcomings with the claim process that was received, but I believe that we are now all in compliance with TDA. So I hope that that audit ends up being a satisfactory audit. But ultimately, it sort of takes the work and the effort of the team to see a project through. So I hope that answers your question, Gary. No? So no sanctions at this time?
With respect to the executive director, Mr. Chairman, I asked that Caltrans respond to that question.
And I defer to our executive director because I know this has been an issue. I defer to our executive director because I know that there have been conversations.
But it's Caltrans who issues the sanctions and doesn't give you the money if that's the case.
Okay. And Mr. Krowitz.
If I may, I think Mr. Caldwell was referring to an item on consent calendar that has been voted upon and closed. I don't think it's appropriate to have this discussion here. I will again invite Mr. Caldwell to Public Works, and we can discuss these outstanding reports on work that has already been completed. And he is more than welcome to go through our files that are, I think, in good shape and ready for any audit that comes. Thank you.
Any further comments for Caltrans?
Can I ask a point of clarification? The item on the agenda that was just referred to is it not for Calaveras County in their capacity as transit operator? It has nothing to do with Public Works projects.
Well, actually, so I think the item that you have before you, so first of all, I think if I could sort of clarify the comment that it doesn't belong here, I absolutely disagree. It does belong here. Our job is to monitor the oversight of the funds that the COG board allocates. So if there's problems with reporting, project delivery, the COG board needs to be aware of those issues. So I disagree with that statement. It does belong here, and it is for public discussion. And if there are follow-up issues, I do encourage Gary to go meet with our Public Works Director. This is specific to the transit program, which you are responsible for those administering those transit program funds as well.
Relating to Caltrans, are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to move on to the staff reports. Staff reports.
I think Amber has a presentation on a project we are just completing.
It's not really a presentation, but another update. I think I updated at the last council meeting the work we're doing with the San Andreas Elementary School, CHP, Public Health, San Andreas Parks and Rec on a bicycle and pedestrian outreach campaign. And so we brought tonight some of the outcomes products from that work. That's going to be, we have 4 of those larger posters that will be on the street poles on 49 throughout San Andreas. We also have some gigantic posters to put out at the school yard, you know, on their fence outside, and then maybe find some appropriate locations along the main highway for those larger signs. And all of this is gearing up for the Walk to School Day in September, which is right now is tentatively scheduled for September 29th. We have a planning meeting tomorrow, which will kind of lock in that date, and then we'll start promoting that day as well. And then we also have the Community Health Walk on September 27th. So that week will kind of be a walking week for San Andreas. And so we're trying to, you know, get the word out. Safety is a big issue, and infrastructure projects are expensive. So we're trying to just, you know, do an educational campaign to try to get more awareness of people walking in this community, and maybe more education to the students, get them into walking, and maybe they can educate their parents. And kind of get people out a little more. We also have some incentive items for the kids for the Walk to School Day. So we have some reflective items. These are little slap bracelets that say look both ways, and then we have zipper poles that are reflective. We also got some sidewalk stencils markings that the kids can kind of draw on chalk on the sidewalks, maybe at crossings or areas that, just to let them know, look up, look both ways, make eye contact. I know it's a simple message, but when you're young, it's important. And I think that's...
Thank you. I have nothing to report unless there are questions from the council for me.
Seeing none, we'll move on to the city report. Mr. Hanna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dave Hannum, Planning Director for the City of Angels. I just have a couple of things, a few things actually. Speaking of reminders and stuff, I want to thank the COG for reminding me to get my LTF claim in, which I did. They're always helpful on that with me. The city received our E76 for our PSR project for Angel Oaks and Foundry Lane. So we'll be starting work on that project. I'm completing and finalizing the contract with Drake Hagelin for our Angels Creek Trail project, and they'll have that in their hot little hand probably tomorrow, and to get their audit going with Caltrans. Also to go back on the PSR for the, we're setting up a Caltrans meeting to get a project manager, working with them to try and start those beginning processes and because when we did the partnership planning grant, as you're aware, that we were a partner with Caltrans, and we want to make sure that we continue that partnership throughout this whole process. So we are starting that as well. Caltrans is in terms of we are in the process of getting our the Vallecito Bridge relinquished. Caltrans is working on the paperwork, and hopefully we'll have something here in the next month or so to take to our council to be able to for them to approve in that. Our Murphy's Grade Road project, I'm completing the RFP, request for proposal, to finish out the design and environmental for that project, and that'll be out hopefully by the end of this month. In terms of our Sustainable Communities Grant, we're in the process, the consultant right now is at work at the next phase of the project, and hopefully we'll be starting our second round of, and Amber, correct me if I'm wrong, our second round of public outreach probably in late August or September, and we'll be going through that process. We're trying to meet with ACPA, the Angels Camp Business Association, to try and get in front of them next month, so I'm working on that, trying to get in front of them, just kind of introduce them to the project, get some comments back and that. And just a side note for the board, last night our city council approved a final subdivision map for De Nova Homes, which is our 55-unit subdivision. So they've already submitted 10 houses to build, and so now we're working on them to get everything finally recorded and do all that type of stuff. So we'll be processing those. So that's a good thing. I can't read my writing. Let's see.
Dave, where is that?
That's in Greenhorn Creek, right off of McCauley Ranch Road. So as you're going to the golf course, you can't miss it. You make a right on McCauley Ranch, and it's just all right there. So there's about 55 homes, a couple parks in there, and so the models are up, or they're getting close to being done. I think they'll be done here in the next, 2 to 3 weeks. So they have 3 models that are done. And just for knowledge, I rode the Saturday Hopper for the inaugural ride. It was a good run. I know Wes was on it. It was an easy ride from Angels to Murphy. So, and actually on the way back, so I couldn't stay. I had to come right back. We actually picked up a hopper right outside of Murphy's to ride to Valley Springs. So. Actually paying fair customers. So that was kind of neat to see that the very first day, the very first run back, that we got somebody on there. So I don't know what the total numbers were for this weekend, but that was nice to see. So other than that, unless you have any questions on city projects, I'd be happy to answer any of those. And
Council?
Since you mentioned that, I'd like to thank Deborah for working so hard on putting together that route, because that's a good business.
yeah, definitely.
Good business resource too.
So
Dave, I just want to compliment you and the city on your project delivery record these last few years. We've had an opportunity to see many of your projects go from those planning phases to now environmental and design, and you guys are carrying a pretty extensive workload. So it's great to see the work that you guys are doing with project delivery. It's great to see the innovation, and it's great to see the city investing in multimodal transportation within your city limits. And I'm hopeful that you guys will be competitive for state and federal funding so that we can see a few construction projects coming your way. So
Yeah.
I just want to congratulate you on that.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it. And one last thing, we did apply for an ATP grant. I don't know when they get awarded, but hopefully we'll get awarded for that. I think it's like 1.5 million, which will allow us to construct the first phase of the sidewalks process that we're working on the Angels Trail project. So hopefully we can get that funding and get it built. So thank you very much.
Council reports.
Where you want to go?
I looked at Amanda, she's shaking her head, no, thank you.
Well, my only comment is to elaborate more on the inaugural run of the Saturday Hopper. A week ago Saturday, I participated in the opening festivities, and I really want to compliment Deborah and all the people involved in putting that together. I think that they're really touched on a great idea. It's a great opportunity to get people out of their cars and get them into alternate transportation. The opportunities for someone like in Valley Springs or San Andreas that may want to go to a Saturday movie in Angels Camp or go up to Murphy's for lunch, shopping, wine tasting are fabulous, and vice versa. People in Murphy's wanting to come down the hill, they have 5 runs per Saturday to do that, and the stops are very convenient. And anyway, I'm very impressed with it, and Deborah, I think you guys did a great job. I would presume when you give your report, you'll touch more on maybe what happened this Saturday and the ridership and so forth. And by the way, thank you again, Melissa, for your kind words.
Councilmember Catalano. Yours? What?
Not right now, thanks.
Okay. Transit report.
I'll give the microphone, Jeff Krovitz, Public Works, I'll give the microphone to Deborah in just a minute. There were a couple of items that I left out on the county report I'd like to pick back up, if that would be all right, at the permission of the council.
Under transit?
It's not transit, it is county, but I can hold it till later.
What? You like to hear? All right, go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Edson, for the report on the opening, the ribbon cutting of 1226. The only thing left on that project is dotting the i's, crossing the t's on a right-of-way agreement, and then getting it recorded. I'd like to give a brief report on fire recovery, because it does affect county roads. The county has executed 2 service agreements, one with arborist for the identification and documentation of trees to be removed along county right-of-way and on private property that affects county right-of-way. And yesterday, the board in a special meeting approved an agreement for the contractor to be removing in the neighborhood of 8,000 trees that are fire damaged, and treat those and get those out. That is next in the line of fire recovery. We will follow soon after that with 6 to 8 more contracts for repair on public roads due to damages caused by the fire. Questions on that? Also wanted to let you know, under the Highway Bridge Program, the county has received the E76 on the Railroad Flat Bridge for construction. We have bid and open bids for construction management and administration contract, which will go before the board this month. And we are also in the process of currently bidding the construction contract for Railroad Flat reconstruction that I expect to go to the board either at the last meeting in August or the first meeting in September. So that will be going into construction. The next project on HPP that's in line is a single tree bridge, which is a low water crossing being replaced but with a bridge in Double Diamond. on the copper side of the county off of Highway 4. For that project, we have obtained 2 right-of-way agreements, and the third one is in negotiation. As soon as we finish that, we can move into final design and then construction. A third project that we should see next year is the Mongy Road Bridge up outside of Murphy's. We've completed the environmental document twice, and we are now moving into final design. Any question on the HBP? Good, that concludes my report. I'll hand it off to Deborah Mullen for transit. Thank you.
I'm Deborah Mullen, Public Works. Yeah, this Saturday Hopper kicked off in great style, and I really appreciate all the support from everyone. A lot of people in this room were there either to cut a ribbon and carry the huge scissors. And in Murphy's, we were greeted with little gifts and lays and few speeches. It was really fun, and we're really enjoying the support of the business communities. The Valley Springs Area Business Association, San Andreas Merchants, Angels Camp Area Business Association, the Murphy's Business Association. Everybody has showed great interest, and they're following through with support and sharing the word. I'm going to talk to the Murphy's Business Association tomorrow morning, and
Also the chamber.
and the chamber for sure. Thank you. So the first run was a good party, and had good media coverage. The second run this last Saturday had 26 passengers, which is not bad for the first real run, and hoping to get support, get riders. I think everybody that talks about it has a lot of ideas for who could ride it and where they can go, and I think there's a lot of potential for teenagers. And so we'll see. One comment we're getting a lot of is we need to go to Arnold. So we'll keep it as it is for a bit, see how it goes, and I see the potential for growth. And I know that the Visitors Bureau would really like to see it go in that direction. Let's watch our ridership in Valley Springs and see where the strong segments are and what we can do. Our funding limit is set, so we have to work within that. So thank you again, everybody. With that, on our PTMI SEA projects, our fleet replacement project is just about done. We took possession of 3 new buses 2 weeks ago, and 2 of them have started service, and we've taken 2 old ones out. The third one, we have to wait for a radio antenna to be ordered and parts delivered for that. But those are the delivery of those went really smoothly compared to some in the past. So that is good. And in the bus shelter project this week, the Bret Hart Union School District approved placement of a bus shelter on their property. So where the chicken barn is, right next to that. So it's really the best place for the bus to pull over because it clears that intersection of 49 and Murphy's Grade Road. So the school district is supporting that shelter, and that's a very good thing. So we're moving ahead with that project. Other than those things, working hard on addressing our transit schedule difficulties, looking to improve the frequency, dependability of the routes along the main route, and find ways to reduce the feeder routes in ways that save money but still serve people. So it's challenging, and we're talking to people and doing a lot of outreach these days. Be having dinner in West Point tomorrow. Are you there? Yeah.
I will not be there, but yeah, they will be having it.
I'll be having dinner in West Point tomorrow, and spoke to people in Burson today, and a lot of groups. So we'll be working on outreach on that and putting the schedule together. Anything else?
No, but no questions of you, but I thought I was going to be real good and remember to thank you, and I see that my 2 friends have already done that, so I want to chime in with them and thank you for what you did with the hopper. It was creative, we brought something like that up to you a bit ago, and you followed through on it. You're there on your day off to get it going. It was 100+ degrees.
It was warm, but it was nice, yeah.
But your hard work is appreciated, and it does go noticed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, thanks to Kelly for showing up too.
That's right.
She was there
She's
on her own time.
on her own time, yes, she was. And it was good. We went around the flea market. There was at the shopping center across the street at the Terrace, and talked to everybody in every booth about transit and the hopper. And a lot of people say, yeah, I heard about it. But it's good to talk to people, so tell your friends.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, Deborah, if I might, I just wanted to point out the numbers that Deborah reported for the first official day that they were in operation. 26, I thought, was an impressive number, something that we were happy to hear, so congratulations on that. And then also, if I could point out the collaboration with the high school. I know that work has been ongoing, that project's been identified, and working with them to get a shelter location has been some time coming now. So congratulations on getting some forward movement on that bus shelter project as well.
Gary?
Gary Caldwell, Valley Springs. Are you on, Mr. Chairman, are you on transit?
We are on transit.
Because it sounded like a combination, bridges and transit.
At this time, it was a transit report.
This is transit.
Any comments on
Okay,
transit?
I beg your pardon?
Go ahead. Any comments on transit?
I wanted to remind the council that at its last meeting, it received a pretty comprehensive report, the mid-year report on transit. And I don't want you to forget what that report told you, if you looked at it at all. That the fare box from last year is down 11%. Fares are down 19%. Fuel is down 29%, and yet the operating cost per passenger is up 42%. And now the transit system is operating at $108 an hour. And I commented at your last meeting that Tom Tryon may have been right when he sat on this council, said maybe we should just have everybody take the taxi and pay for it. That is very expensive, $108 an hour for operating costs. And I urged you at that time to look into the possibility of another operator outside of the County Public Works Department. Look into that. And I'm not sure what's causing the resistance of the 5 members of the council who are not Board of Supervisors members. Now, I can understand the 2 gentlemen here who represent the Board of Supervisors. They want to protect their own. So they don't want to remove that operating business from Public Works Department because it brings in money. $92,000 in salaries that the transit system paid Public Works last year, and $35,000 for marketing. And so that's money coming into the department. But I don't know what drives the other 5 of you. I don't know if you're intimidated by these 2 gentlemen or bullied by them or what, but you need to take a look at the numbers. And I want to emphasize particularly to Mr. Colm that I don't make these numbers up. I'm reiterating and drawing them to your attention that you need to take a look at these. If you're going to run any kind of a system at all, you need to do it efficiently, let's hope. And I think that that's where counties drop the ball, is that they're obviously not running efficiently for $108 an hour. Good grief. Let's hope that's not efficient. So I'm asking you once again, suggesting once again that you look into the possibility of looking at another operator, professional, someone who knows something about running transit, and see what they can do with this system. Thank you. And by the way, these two gentlemen may not be here in 5 months.
May I respond since he mentioned my name? I'm personally well aware of what the numbers show, and we're certainly well aware of what our options are. Thank you.
It's ridiculous to make a statement that we're bullying anybody. There are more of, it is ridiculous to make a statement that we're bullying anybody. In case you haven't counted, there are more of them than the two of us. And in many instances, we are losing the vote. So I do take exception to that comment. If you've watched some of the votes, we do lose. And I'm not protecting anybody. We have already brought it up to Public Works that transit has got to change to make adjustments. That has been said in open hearings many times. And I don't know how much clearer we have to make that. Your comments, who knows what's going to happen in 5 months? You may not be here in 5 months. So, if you can predict the future, let me know. They know that they need to make changes. We have put them on notice that they need to make changes. The hopper is a result of also putting them on notice that they needed to try different things on Saturday to try to bring more revenue in. I'm not going to fault Public Works for doing that. I'm going to thank them for doing it. The future of transit, there's already been votes made and decisions made. So 5 months, I don't know. If I may see in 6 months, I may not.
Any further comment?
Yes.
Go.
Mr. Caldwell, I'd like to clarify that as a council member, I have never been intimidated, manipulated, bullied, or in any way influenced by either any council member, any board of supervisor, or any staff of the COG. And I take offense to your insinuation that I have been.
Okay. I think that concludes the transit item.
Is there more room for discussion on
Transit?
It could be transit.
We're on to transit items, so I'd just like to keep it there.
I did not see anything on mobility manager on the agenda.
Yeah, it wasn't on there.
Yeah, so.
I do not have a public comment on the mobility management RFP process at this time.
No comments?
Okay. Our next agenda item is a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, conference with labor negotiators. Is there any public comment on that item? Seeing none, we're going to close the meeting and have the closed session.